to be aware that we will be recording this session, and this session will be available later on Vimeo. So thank you very much for joining us here today. My name is Brett Moffat. I'm the Solutions Architect for the Asia Pacific region. And joining us today is Wally Mead, who's one of the product managers for Thoresen and well known in the System Center Configuration Manager community as originally the Program Manager for Configuration Manager in Microsoft for many years. Hi, Wally.
Hey there, Brett. Good to be here with you all, and hopefully we have a great session.
Sorry, my audio is going a bit funny here at the moment. Yeah, so we're going to kick off here today and talk about the System Center 2016 and what's new with the Configuration Manager, and plenty of different topics to be able to talk about. First off, we've got a bit of housekeeping to sort of go through the webinar, go through webinar controls. If you have any questions, please throw them into the questions pane and we'll answer them as we go along. What is your screen frozen again?
No, it shows housekeeping. So do you not see the housekeeping slide?
Not what I'm seeing on my, now we do. Okay. Maybe it's just my really poor internet connection. We're still waiting for broadband internet here in Australia. So, okay, so yeah, just a bit of housekeeping. Any questions you have, please pop them into the questions window of the webinar, go to webinar screen, and we'll answer them as we go along. Or we'll take Q&As at the end of the session here as well. Just a bit of a background on Thoresen as to who we are. Thoresen is a company that was formed in 2012, looking to be the System Center experts in everything System Center. We're founded with a simple and powerful idea to be the thinkers on all things Microsoft Cloud and System Center. We have several pillars of the business that hold up our business, which is service management, which is around our System Center Service Manager products and tools, asset management, password reset tool that we built on our own platform here as well. We have consulting services to make sure that we can get the most out of the products for our customers, and what we call our PACE, or Partner and Community Enablement Team, to make sure that we can do these sort of videos, our Vimeo website, our blog, and get as much information back into the community and assist our partners as much as possible. The Thoresen platform is actually built on top of whatever your infrastructure of choice is, whether it be Azure or Hyper-V or other infrastructure of choice there. The engine behind everything is actually the System Center engine, everything that exists for System Center, the powerful tools that a lot of us know and love. And sitting on top of that, we then leverage that engine to be able to extend what an enterprise actually needs to get a job done at the end of the day. The Thoresen platform consists of 3 different streams within inside System Center Service Manager, which is service management. I have asset management to gain control around a business's hardware and software assets. We also have Essentials Management, which is to extend the Microsoft Service Manager console. Many apps that actually are involved in extending that. Recently we added Password Reset for Active Directory, which is a self-service product that allows end users to be able to change their passwords themselves with a minimum fast and setup. The other thing we do is we do give away free community apps. So recently, Wally and myself did a webinar on the Microsoft System Center Configuration Manager tools that we give away for free. There's 4 of those, and that is up on our Vimeo website, vimeo.com/Team Thoresen, so you can go there and have a bit of a look at that. So now that we've had a bit of a history on who we are as a company, I'm going to pass over to Wally and get him to sort of run through what's new in Configuration Manager 2016 and some of the pitfalls and what we need to do with upgrading to 2016 and what's coming in the current branch.
All right, thank you very much, Brett. Appreciate it. And again, welcome everyone. I know it's the beginning of your day, so thanks for taking a little bit of time out of your day to listen to Brett and I ramble on for a little while about things. And hopefully you'll find this session being worthwhile and beneficial for you. As Brett mentioned, if you do have questions, go ahead and pop those into the question section, and we can answer them as we go along, or if you want to wait to the very end and ask them then, that's fine. So my first topic of the conversation, we got a few different things we're going to cover in the rest of the time we have, is System Center 2016, what is included in the suite? And that you guys probably should be fairly well familiar with, but just like 2 weeks ago today in the US, I know it's later there in Australia, but 2 weeks ago today in the US, Microsoft announced the general availability of System Center 2016. And you guys are very well familiar with what's in System Center, so I won't go through all the different products there, but it's all the carryover, all the previous apps that were in the System Center suite, including Configuration Manager. Now, the one thing I want you to note here on this slide is that on all the different products that are technically part of System Center, outside of Configuration Manager, there's the 2016 version on them. But in Configuration Manager, we don't have that, and I'll talk about that on the next slide that we get into details. So because of the general availability a couple weeks ago, what that means is that you can go up to whatever your normal distribution channel is, whether it's the Volume Licensing Service Center or MSDN. If you want the evaluation version of the products, you can get the final version of all these products or the 2016 version of them and the new release of Configuration Manager up on those media, and download that for your production environment or your lab environment or your evaluation processes that you need to go through. So those are all available for you. So now let's talk specifically about what's in Configuration Manager as of this System Center 2016 release. And there's a couple of things that are kind of confusing here for people. That's why I wanted to spend a few minutes talking about it. There is a new baseline build available. So what is in System Center 2016 that's related to Configuration Manager is not Configuration Manager 2016. There is no product called Configuration Manager 2016. You might see people reference it. You might see it not in a Microsoft blog, but elsewhere you might see references to ConfigMan 2016. And there's not a product by that name. So the product is still called System Center Configuration Manager. There's no version, there's no year designator, there's no build number after it in the technical product name. Now, because of that, because there's still people out there running Configuration Manager 2007 and Configuration Manager 2012, as well as the new System Center Configuration Manager, what you're finding that most people are doing is they're referencing this new version of Configuration Manager as current branch. So all the TechNet docs and all the blogs and so on, you're seeing all the references calling it current branch. So what came in this new release of System Center 2016 is a new baseline build of Configuration Manager current branch that's based on the 1606 production release of the current branch product. So what that means is in the past, some of you may be already up on the current branch product of Configuration Manager. And when you install that version you have, the current branch release, you started at build 1511. And then you might have updated to build 1602, and now you may have even updated to build 1606, which has been out for a few months. And that 1511 release that I referenced, that was the original baseline build of Configuration Manager current branch, which means you could install a brand new site on 1511. Now you'll be able to install a brand new site on the 1606 release. Now this also does include update rollup 1 as a hotfix. I got the KB number listed there for you on the slide. So again, if you were already installing and running the current branch release of Configuration Manager, and if you had already updated to 1606, by now you should have seen KB 3186654 come down to your 1606 current branch site. as a hot fix that you could apply, and that is update roll-up number 1, or update roll-up 1. That is included in this baseline build of Configuration Manager Current Branch 1606 in this new download you can get. Okay, so what this means to you guys is very good news. So those of you that are still on Configuration Manager 2007, you know that you can't directly upgrade from Config Man 2007 to anything past that. You have to do a side-by-side migration. You can also do a side-by-side migration as well as an in-place upgrade from supported releases of Configuration Manager 2012, which is 2012 SP2 and Configuration Manager 2012 R2 SP1. If you were doing that side-by-side migration, previously you had to install a brand new 1511 site, then you would update to 1602, or now you would have skipped it and gone to 1606, and then you would do your migration from 2007 or 2012. Or if you're still on 2012 and you wanted to do the in-place upgrade, which is highly recommended in most cases, again, previously you would have had to do your upgrade to 1511 and then use the updates and servicing feature to update to 1602 or 1606. Now your life just got a whole lot easier, because if you're not already on the current branch product, you can now just install a brand new environment or do an in-place upgrade directly at 1606 and skip those interim builds or releases that you had to go to previously. So it just means you get to your final destination, which is 1606, more quickly than you had to in the past. So that's good news for you. However, if you're already on the current branch product, this doesn't really buy you anything, because of the fact that you're already on 1602 and you can just get use the updates and servicing feature to get to 1606. Or if you're already on 1606, it's the same thing. It just has a hotfix built into it. So it doesn't really buy you a whole lot for those that are already on the current branch product, but for those that are still on a prior release of the product, again, it makes your life a lot easier getting to this current release. Now, as we go forward, the next release that comes out, it's expected to be 1610, given their 4-month cycle that they've been going through, 1602, then 1606. So we're expecting the next release to be 1610, and it doesn't matter whether you started at 1511 or you started at 1606, you'll still use that same updates and servicing feature to get to the 1610 release when it becomes publicly available. Okay, so that's the new build of Configuration Manager, the new baseline build that's in the product now, as of the 2 weeks ago today, the System Center 2016 release. Now, what the product group also did for you was to create a brand new edition of Configuration Manager called the Long-Term Servicing Branch Edition. And I've got the little kind of joke on there saying Long-Term Servicing Branch version to confuse you. And it has confused people. So that's why I wanted to take, again, a couple of minutes to talk about this to clear things up. And in essence, to let you know you should never really use it. So Configuration Manager LTSB. So you've heard me talk about current branch, and you've heard me now mention LTSB, or Long-Term Servicing Branch. And these should sound familiar to you because they're the exact same terminology for Windows 10. So you have Windows 10 current branch and you have Windows 10 long-term servicing branch. Windows 10 also has the current branch for business, which is realistically current branch. It just gives you the ability of delaying these updates for a longer period of time until they're declared business ready. So ignore that one for now, but current branch and LTSB of Windows 10 is essentially the same type of functionality for Configuration Manager LTSB. So what this new release gives you is the ability of installing the LTSB release of Configuration Manager. However, in a couple more slides, I'll tell you that you should never do that except in one small scenario, which we'll cover. This new LTSB release is a limited functionality release. It removes the vast majority of the features that rely on cloud access. And I've got more detailed slides coming up on these couple of things here coming up. It has limited operating system support. Then I'll show you what that looks like momentarily. Now, the nice thing is that this is supported for 10 years without updates. So today in your current branch release, or if you're still on 2012 or 2007 and you then update to or replace it with the current branch release, you technically have 1 year life of a current branch release of Configuration Manager. So let's say you were on that 15.11 build of Configuration Manager. Well, that came out in December of last year. In December of this year, so from December 2015 to December 2016, you are going to be required to update from 15.11 Configuration Manager to some later build. So in essence, the product group supports a current branch release of Configuration Manager for 1 calendar year. So from 15.11, you'd have until 16.11, which would be basically December of 2016. With this LTSB release, you're not going to get these, I'll say quarterly, but they're not really quarterly. They're 3 times a year, these every 4-month releases. You're not going to get those with the LTSB release. You're going to not have any updates to this product other than maybe some security type updates. But it's designed to be supported for 10 years without any updates at all, very much like the Windows 10 LTSB releases. They're not getting the 15.07 to 15.11 to 16.07 updates. Now, what makes it a little more difficult for you is that the LTSB installation is on the same media as the current branch 1606 media. And I'll show you that in just a second. It's just a different option during setup. Okay, so some of these features that are removed or not supported in the LTSB release that just came out. Again, anything that has to do with the cloud. So the updates and servicing feature, it is still there, and it will download the definitions or the manifests for new updates, such as 16.10 when it becomes publicly available. It'll download that reference, and you'll see it in your console in the updates and servicing node, but you won't be able to install it. If you try and install it, it actually will tell you it requires a current branch release. But they have to have the updates and servicing feature there technically to get the hot fixes. Microsoft Intune subscriptions. So you can't implement a hybrid environment. So you can't integrate Microsoft Intune with the LTSB release. You cannot even implement an on-premises MDM solution with Configuration Manager LTSB because on-prem MDM requires an Intune subscription, not for your devices, but for the site infrastructure. The Windows 10 servicing dashboard and servicing plans are removed because the LTSB release of Configuration Manager does not support Windows 10 current branch or current branch for business editions. It only supports, for Windows 10, the 2 LTSB releases of Windows 10. And I'll show you that on the next slide. No future support of new operating systems. So anything that comes out in the future is not going to be supported by this LTSB release, or at least is not expected to be. Asset intelligence, while it says asset intelligence, it actually does support asset intelligence inventory data for finding out about applications. What it doesn't support is the asset intelligence synchronization point. So the ability of utilizing the cloud service to update your catalog with new application metadata, or for you to request categorization of apps that you have that are listed as uncategorized. Cloud distribution points are not applicable. Exchange Online to be used as an Exchange server connector for mobile devices. And any of those pre-release features that you may have heard referenced in a webinar or another presentation that I might have done. So those are all removed from the LTSB release. As far as operating systems, as of right now, the current branch release and the LTSB release are exactly the same in their operating system support for site systems as well as clients, with one exception, and that is in Windows 10. The LTSB release of Configuration Manager, again, does not support Windows 10 current branch and current branch for business. So it doesn't support Windows 10 15.07, Windows 10 15.11, nor Windows 10 16.07, or what they kind of call the anniversary edition. It only supports for Windows 10 those 2 LTSB releases, Enterprise 2015 LTSB and Enterprise 2016 LTSB. It also does support Windows 7 SP1 and Windows 8.1 and Mac and embedded, and a bunch of Linux and Unix distros. So, all right, so when do you want to use this thing? It sounds really dumb to have it, so why do you want to use it? Realistically, this was only created for one scenario, and that scenario is for customers who decide not to renew their software assurance. Configuration Manager 2012 and the current branch releases require software assurance benefits to install and to maintain those products. So if you choose to let your software assurance lapse or expire, then legally, according to the EULA, you have to remove your Configuration Manager installation. This LTSB release does not require software assurance. So you'd be able to remove what you have and then install a new LTSB release and still be able to manage your clients. So that's the one scenario where you would use this LTSB release if you no longer have software assurance benefits. Now, let's say you were in the installation phase, so you're doing an in-place upgrade from ConfigMan 2012, or you're doing your side-by-side from ConfigMan 2007, and you saw this option, and this option is right here is the setup screen. So you see this setup screen option, and it has this option down here. Let me get my arrow over here. Right there where you see current branch and you see LTSB. And okay, it makes sense. I might want to do a long-term servicing branch. So you go ahead and pick that option, you walk through the setup wizard, you get your site installed, and then you go playing around or you do some reading online and you see, oh wow, I made a mistake here. I didn't really want to do the LTSB release. You can go ahead and, if I go back to the previous slide, oh, I got to get away from the pen here so my clicker works. Normal drawing, and let me go ahead and clear the screen as well, erase all drawings. You can go ahead and convert from the LTSB edition over to the current branch edition. So that's a nice thing that they made for us. However, if you're currently running current branch and you decide, oh, well, I don't want to have software assurance anymore, let me go ahead and convert over to the LTSB release, you can't do that. You can't convert from current branch to LTSB. It would be a brand new install that you would have to run through to get from a current branch installation over to an LTSB installation. So what you might consider doing is keeping your current branch, installing a brand new LTSB environment, different site code, different computer names, and so on, and then using the migration feature to go ahead and migrate over those collections, those applications, packages, software update groups, and so on that you have over to your new environment. Okay, so let me go ahead and show you what that looks like. So I'll switch over to this environment right here. And I'm looking at the audience view screen, and it looks like it's there. If you got a delay in your internet connection, I apologize for you, but it appears on my screen. So I've downloaded the 1606 baseline build of Configuration Manager from MSDN, and you can see when I go ahead and launch the installer, it tells you that it's version 1606. If you'd paid attention when you installed the current branch edition previously, it would have said 1511. So I'm going to go ahead and click the install option, and now I click next, and what should happen for me is that it should detect that I'm already on an existing installation of Configuration Manager and not let me do a site installation. So if we look at the available options for me, see these top two options of install a primary site and install a central administration site are unavailable to me. That's because I'm on an existing, in this case, I'm on an R2 SP1 of Configuration Manager 2012 release, so it automatically assumes I want to do an upgrade. If I was on a clean server, it didn't already have Configuration Manager here, those two options would be available, so I could install a brand new 1606 baseline build, current branch, or LTSB, or a CAS. So I'm going to go ahead and choose the upgrade option. So I'll click next. And now you get the normal screen where it asks you for your license, so your product license. It also now asks you if you want to supply your software assurance expiration date. The reason for this is that as of this new build, you can input this value, and the product will let you know as you start getting close to that expiration time of your software assurance agreement, letting you know that you either need to renew it, or you have to go in there and at the expiration time remove it. So that's the reason for this date option. And then down below, obviously, you can see it defaults to current branch, but you could also go ahead and choose to select the LTSB release. Once you select whatever one of those, the rest of the setup upgrade process is exactly the same as what you're familiar with. So I won't go ahead and carry on with this. Let me go ahead and show you. I've got an environment that I already installed with an LTSB edition, which is right here. Let me go back into full screen mode for you. Give it a second for it to catch up to you guys over across the big pond. And this is my LTSB environment. So as you look at it, visually it's going to look almost exactly the same as, well, ConfigMan 2012, but also certainly look very much the same as the current branch edition. So if I go up to and look at the help about, so about configuration manager, you'll see that it says it's running 1606. So 1606, but nowhere in here does it tell you you have the current branch or long-term servicing branch installation, which again, this is a LTSB installation, just so I can show you. The official way to verify that you're running LTSB versus current branch is by going to the administration workspace, expanding site configuration, clicking on sites, and then up on the ribbon, going to hierarchy settings, and I'm going to zoom in here for you so you can see this. On hierarchy settings, there's a new tab now called the licensing tab. So click on the licensing tab, which I'll do right here, and if this first checkbox is available for you to select, and that checkbox says convert to current branch, that means that you are an LTSB release, because this is how you convert from LTSB to current branch. So you did your upgrade or you installed a clean environment, you didn't know any better, you picked LTSB, and now you can very easily go and convert to current branch. So very, very simple thing to do. You just click the checkbox, click OK, and then all these features become available to you. So let me show you what you're missing, a couple of things. If you go to Cloud Services, go to Intune Subscription, and then go to Add Intune Subscription, you'll get a message box here that says, sorry, this is only available to the current branch edition, and it tells you where to go to convert from LTSB to current branch. If you try and add a cloud distribution point, same thing happens. It tells you that, again, this is only available for a current branch edition of the product. If you go to the software library and you look at your nodes in the software library, you're missing a node right here. Normally you would have Windows 10 dashboard, so the Windows 10 servicing, or Windows 10 dashboard with service plans. It's not there for the LTSB edition because it doesn't support Windows 10 current branch for business. So there's some things in the UI you'll see differently, but in essence, it's the same thing. They just restrict those areas of the console. Once you do the conversion, bingo, you're back up and running, no issues at all, and it gets you switched over to the current branch edition. So really, that's all I wanted to show you about the current branch versus LTSB edition. Again, as a bottom line, ignore LTSB edition of Configuration Manager unless you decide you're no longer going to keep up to date with software assurance. At that point in time, then you can go ahead and look at implementing the LTSB release. So the LTSB release is not a time-bombed edition. It is not an evaluation edition. It's a fully functioning production level release that's valid for 10 years. It just removes some functionality for you based on product features and not being able to keep it updated or not wanting to keep it updated. So it really, it's there for that legal issue of the software assurance scenario. All right. So with that, let's jump back into the slides. So that's really all I wanted to cover on the System Center 2016 edition. So there's a new baseline build. That new baseline build, when you install it or do an upgrade to it, it's going to ask you, do you want to have a current branch edition, or do you want to have the LTSB edition? Oh, one thing let me go back to my tech preview site for just a second here. That's the LTSB. One thing I was going to show you as well back here is that if you did go in there and put in your software assurance date, back on that hierarchy settings where you can convert from LTSB to current branch. So on the same screen, what I showed you there before, you can also go in here and you can extend your software assurance or put it in. If you didn't put it in during setup, you can now go in there and set your software assurance expiration date. As you then get prompted, hey, you're going to expire in a month, you can go ahead and renew it, and then you go in here and update that, and those prompts will go away, and then in another 3 years or whatever your date is, it'll pop up again and let you know you're getting close to expiration. So that's really it. All right, so, but what I wanted to talk about with the rest of the time we have is the fact that you guys know that in current branch, you're going to get new updates in essence, every 4 months. If you want to look at some of these updates ahead of time, you have the ability of installing something called a technical preview site. The technical preview sites are not production ready, or they're not production ready from the aspect of the fact that they have pre-release features in them, and they're very, not crippled, but they're limited in how many clients you can have. You can only have 10 clients in a technical preview environment, so you're not allowed to put them in production. So that would be a lab scenario where you'd install a technical preview site. But the cool thing with the technical preview sites or installations is the fact that you can look at and try out new features that the product group is looking at adding to the production-ready releases at some point in the future. So what I'm going to do here for the rest of our time is I'm going to show you some things that are in the Tech Preview 1609 as well as Tech Preview 1610, which just came out, that may very well hit your production environments in this next release. Again, we're expecting it to be production 1610, not this Tech Preview 1610 I'm going to talk about. All right, so again, technical preview, as with all technical preview builds, are a glimpse of what may be included in the next production release of current branch or a future production release. There were actually things that are in Tech Preview 1605 that didn't make 1606 production build. They may make 1610 production build. We don't know that yet because that build's not out yet and not telling us what is included. So some of the things that you may wind up seeing in the next production release in your current branch environments, or could be a release after that, integration with Windows Upgrade Analytics. So this is very cool. So if you're not on a Windows 10 environment, you're still running Windows 7 or Windows 8.1, what Windows Upgrade Analytics gets you is the ability of applying a hotfix to your Windows 7, your Windows 8, 8.1 platforms that will then generate telemetry data, which will get forwarded up to Microsoft to this cloud service called Windows Upgrade Analytics. You'll then be able to have that data brought back down to your configuration manager environments so that you can view that inside your config man console. And inside the config man console, obviously that's where you're managing all of your existing environments, including your your production Windows 10 environments. So you'd be able to see your upgradability as far as what Microsoft thinks with this upgrade analytics. So that's kind of a cool thing. Additional Windows Store for Business integration features. So the Windows Store for Business has been around for a while, and integration with it as of current branch. Previously, you could only deploy free apps from the Windows Store for Business. You can now deploy purchased apps from the Windows Store for Business, as well as like forces synchronization between the Windows Store for Business and your configuration manager environment. Endpoint protection allows you to specify designations for risky computers. So a computer is considered risky after it has experienced X number of malwares. You can also have some controls over how you block suspicious files. Some additional settings for Apple Device Enrollment Protocol or Program for bulk enrollment of company-owned devices. For those that are using Microsoft Intune, you know that the licensing for Microsoft Intune only allows you to enroll 5 devices per end user. You can now enroll 15 devices per end user, which I don't know why anybody would need more than 5 devices unless it's just a testing scenario. That's an awful lot of devices. I can barely handle one, let alone getting more than that. Additional VPN profiles for Windows 10 devices that are enrolled through the hybrid scenario. Hybrid means Microsoft Intune integration. So some additional profiles or VPN types for your VPN profiles. Intune compliance charts brought down to your configuration manager environment for integration. A lot of new compliance settings in the areas of iOS, Android, Mac, Windows 10, Windows 8.1, including some Windows Phone devices. Office 365 client management dashboard. So you know that in the last release of current branch, they've started doing some integration with Office 365. There's now in the 1609 Tech Preview build, there's a dashboard that will let you see the number of Office 365 clients you have and then perform some actions from the dashboard, such as deploying applications, your Office apps, and so on. If you're still in a BIOS environment and your hardware supports UEFI, there's new task sequence variables and actions to help you convert from BIOS to UEFI, such as designating a transition partition you want to use between the BIOS and UEFI scenarios. And there's a lot of screenshots and documentation in the Tech Preview 1609 TechNet docs to walk you through the process of implementing all those task sequence steps to do your BIOS to UEFI conversion. Now, what I really wanted to concentrate on here, because this is going to affect everybody, these last couple of slides, you may or may not be affected by those changes when they become production ready. And I'm not saying they're going to be in the 1610 production build, but when they do become available in production, you may not be interested in them because you may not be doing Intune integration. You may not be doing, you may already be up on Windows 10. So you don't care about the upgrade analytics from Windows 7 and Windows 8.1 and so on. But everybody has boundary groups. Everybody has distribution points. So this change that's coming in the future is going to affect everybody. So let me talk about it for a moment, and I'll show you this in my next demo coming up. So what you guys know today when you add a distribution point to a boundary group is that you can designate the connection to that distribution point as either a fast connection or a slow connection. That ability of defining that is now gone. You no longer define a distribution point with a fast connection or a slow connection. And I'll show you what happens again when I get into the demo. There's no more configuration of a fallback distribution point. That terminology on your DP goes away. What you have now are boundary groups, which you've already had, but now you can set up relationships between boundary groups. So you can state that my current boundary group has a relationship with this boundary group across some wide area link. And I have another relationship with a different boundary group across some other WAN link. And you can designate the time period that you want your clients in their current boundary group to search for the content on their own boundary group DPs before they fall back to or try and gain access to a distribution point in what's called a neighboring boundary group. There's also this concept of your default site boundary group that is kind of your fallback. So you put the distribution points in there that you want everybody to be able to get access to as a fallback scenario, as a last resort scenario. And you get to configure the time between the client searching in the current boundary group before they fall back to or trying, again, gain the access to the content in some neighboring boundary group. And I'll show you what that looks like in the UI in just a minute. But again, this is going to happen, and this may very well happen. In fact, I believe from what I'm hearing, it's going to happen in the 1610 or the next production build that comes out. So, and again, I'll show you that in just a moment. But Microsoft also just released Tech Preview 1610. So let's talk about the few things that are in the Tech Preview 1610. And I'm guessing some of these will probably make the 1610 production release as well. So again, they may or may not happen in the next production release or may never get to a production release, but I'm guessing that they will. So what's in Technical Preview 1610 includes filtering by content size and automatic deployment rules. So you already know that when you create an ADR, you can filter by title, you can filter by classification or by product or by custom severity, date release and revise, all sorts of different parameters. Now they have a filter that will let you search by or filter by content size, and I'll show you what that looks like. As you know, if you have a required deployment out to clients, when they receive that deployment, if you're doing notifications, a notification pops up and says, hey, your IT organization has required this software to be installed. And you can say install now, or you can say install at the deadline. Well, now they're adding in a snooze and remind me feature for these required deployments. Very much like in Outlook, when an Outlook reminder pops up, you can click snooze and you can tell it how long you want to snooze for. You'll be able to configure a snooze and the reminder of when you want that pop-up to appear for you. This will tie into the computer agent section of the client settings and specifically the deployment deadline. So the snooze and remind me capabilities there will let you go beyond past what your deployment deadline is and the reminders for that. If you had deployed any applications that required administrative approval before they could be installed, if you had then the end user requested the app, you'd gone in there and you approved that app request, that was a final result. You couldn't change your mind after the fact without going into SQL and hacking the SQL database, which technically was unsupported. Well, now you have the ability of going back to the same location, application approval requests, where you approved that request prior, you can now take that request and you can deny it. And then lastly, something that people are going to find pretty exciting is if you utilize the automatic client upgrade feature to upgrade your clients to the most current production release of the configuration manager client, which I'm a big fan of, you now have the ability to designate a collection of clients you want to exclude from this automatic client upgrade feature. So that's kind of a cool thing. You can have it upgrade all your clients in your random time frame that you designate, except for all the clients in this one collection. Maybe it's your e-commerce servers, like your web servers, and it's in the holiday time frame, and you don't want to take a chance on them going down at all, so you don't want to update the client on those guys. You want to wait till after the holidays, so you can designate that collection. So let's go ahead and take a look at what these look like in practice. So let me go ahead and switch over to a different environment. First, let me go ahead and go back to my tech preview. I want to give you a quick little reminder. So let's go to hierarchy settings, and let's go to boundary groups, and I have a boundary group here. And just as a reminder, I'm going to go ahead and go to properties of boundary groups. And you notice that you have a references tab, and the references tab is, oops, sorry about that, wrong button. References tab allows you to designate the DPs in your boundary group. So if I go to the references tab, you can see I have a distribution point listed here, and you can see it also has a connection designated as fast. If I decide that this link is to be considered a slow connection for my deployment settings, you can then go ahead and click the change connection button. That will change you from fast to slow or slow to fast. Okay, so just remember that you have that today. And if you go to a distribution point and go to its properties, on the boundary groups tab of your distribution point properties, you have this checkbox at the bottom, allow fallback source location for content. So those are kind of the ways you configure your fallback. Say yes, you want to have fallback, and in your deployment, you designate yes, you want to allow fallback. Okay, so now let's get out of this environment. Let's go to a 1610 tech preview environment, which is sitting over on this environment here. So you can see that it says that it's tech preview 1610. So it's not production level code yet. It's my tech preview code that I got installed. And if I drop down on the version about Configuration Manager, it does tell you that it's tech preview 1610. So this is not production level stuff. This is technical preview. These things I'm going to show you may make the next production build, may not. We don't know yet. All right, so one of the cool things with the tech preview site, if you're not familiar with them, is you get this new workspace over your list of workspaces called What's New. And when you click on the What's New workspace, it shows you in the results pane all the new features that you can try out in this new tech preview build. So it talks about here, deny previously approved application requests or exclude clients from automatic upgrade and so on. You can also scroll down to prior releases. Here's what's new in 1609. And if I scroll down here, here's the boundary group improvements that I'm going to show you right now. It's okay. All right, so let's go to administration. Let's pick a distribution point, and the first thing I'll show you when I go to the properties of my DP and go to the boundary groups tab, that checkbox down at the bottom that used to be right here is no longer there. That allow fallback for content location, that is gone. So you can't designate that on a distribution point anymore. So let's go up to hierarchy settings. Let's go to boundary groups. And my primary boundary group is this one called local clients in TPS. TPS is my site code, technical preview site. That's all the more creative I can get with it. And then I created this other boundary group called local DPs in Seattle. Now the top one you see here, this default built-in boundary group for TPS, that's the default built-in site group. So that's kind of my last resort boundary group. Okay, so what I do is I go to my boundary group, local clients in TPS. You're going to add your boundaries as you normally would. You're going to go to the References tab and add your distribution points to that boundary group as you normally would. But notice that you don't have the connection speed, nor do you have the button here to change your connection. You don't have that fast versus slow designator anymore. Instead, what you have is a new tab called the Relationships tab. And this is where I define the relationship between this boundary group and other boundary groups. There are no relationships built in, so you have to create these. So I'm going to go ahead and click Add to add a boundary relationship, and I'll take my local DPs in Seattle. And now, once I select that, I'm allowed to designate what is my fallback time before my clients will try and access any DPs in this boundary group called local DPs in Seattle. And it defaults to 120 minutes. So let me go ahead and change this to 10 minutes. Okay, so I'll go ahead and set that, and let me go ahead and this local DPs in Seattle. I got 10 minutes. Let me go ahead and configure that the final fallback right here, and I'll say this is going to be 30 minutes. Notice there's also a checkbox here where you can say never fallback. I never want clients from this boundary group to try and access DPs in this other boundary group. So you can designate that as the never fallback if you want to. But let's go ahead and create this scenario. All right, so let me talk about this for a moment, then we'll move on. With this configuration for my boundary groups, with these relationships, if my client is within the boundaries of my local clients in TPS boundary group, which is the one sitting right over here, if my client's in that boundary group, that's considered its current boundary group. And I tell it to go look for some content. It tries all the DPs in the current boundary group for 2 minutes for each DP in a random fashion, because they're all would be considered equal inside that boundary group, very likely. So they'll randomly pick a DP, try to find the content for up to 2 minutes. If it can't find it, it goes to another DP in that same boundary group until it's exhausted all the DPs in its boundary group. After 10 minutes of not being able to find the content, it will go ahead and then fall back to my first neighboring boundary group, which is local DPs in Seattle. So it tries for 10 minutes in my local boundary group, the current one, and then it tries any distribution points in my neighboring boundary group called local DPs in Seattle. So now it's got a pool of the DPs in the current boundary group as well as all the DPs in the neighboring boundary group. So it'll try all the distribution points in those two boundary groups, local clients in TPS, local DPs in Seattle. It'll try all them for a total of, in this case now, another 10 minutes, so a total of, or excuse me, another 20 minutes, a total of 30 minutes. So after it's tried the local boundary group, the current one, and the neighboring boundary group for a total of 30 minutes, then it will fall back to the next boundary group, which is, again, sorry, I hit the wrong button, or didn't hit it at the right time. So in this case, it would be my last resort, my default built-in boundary group for TPS. So it tries current for up to 10 minutes in this case, then it tries current and neighboring for another 20 minutes total. So it'll give me a total of 30 minutes of trying those two boundary groups before it falls back to DPs in the final boundary group. So you get to designate the relationships and how long do you want to wait trying DPs in one boundary group before you fall back to another one. The tech preview docs, if you've not seen this or played around with it, the tech preview docs for 1609 go into quite a bit of detail here. They got some pictures there to show you the flow, as well as some text to help describe the flow here and what happens in an upgrade scenario, because everybody's going to be upgrading, because you can't install 1610 if that's what it is as a clean or baseline build. It'll be an update servicing. So that's one of the things to be aware of. And this is going to affect everybody eventually, whether it makes 1610, which I think it will, or whether it's in the next production release after that. Okay, so another thing that's important for you then is if we go look at the upgrades and servicing feature. So we go to site configuration and go to sites and the automatic client upgrade feature. So let's go to sites, go to hierarchy settings. Notice here in the tech preview, there's another new tab that you've not seen before, which is diagnostic and usage data. This tab, the data on this tab, which when I click on it is my telemetry settings. This information, it's unavailable to be changed in a tech preview environment. You're hard-coded at the enhanced level, as you can see here in the middle. That's what the default level is, and you're hard-coded there for a tech preview environment. But for a production environment, if I just switch over to one of my, like my LTSB site, which is sitting right here, and show you that, you go up to the upper left-hand corner, the blue rectangle and the white caret or triangle, and click on it, and then you have the diagnostic and usage data sitting right here. So it was on the drop down, like the help about scenario. And on a production level site, you are allowed to go in here and change your telemetry setting from enhanced to basic, or from enhanced to full, or whatever you want to. And you have to provide telemetry data to Microsoft in order to update your environment. So anyway, in the tech preview environment, as you can see there, they did change the location of that. It's now on the hierarchy settings tab. But where we were going here is the last tab, the client upgrade tab. So I assume you guys are familiar with the automatic client upgrade feature, and that's this top portion of this dialog here. So what you would do is you'd select the checkbox here, and you select that checkbox that says upgrade all my clients, and then you'd go over here and, oops, didn't get one there, but then you go over to the number of days designator, and you would go ahead and specify the number of days you want. And you can see the default in the lower right-hand corner of my red X or triangle there is 7. So what you're saying is within 7 days, you want all the clients in your environment to be upgraded, unless you click the bottom checkbox, which is do not upgrade servers. So if I go ahead and go ahead and select the checkbox. It tells you, hey, you're going to do this for all your clients. And then the default, again, is 7 days. So what's going to happen is it's going to create a policy for all systems, so all your Windows clients in the All Systems collection, to tell them some random time in the next 7 days, from this time here to this deadline there, 7 days later, I want you to make sure that you're running that build of Configuration Manager Client, 8385. Now, if you don't want that, then obviously you can go ahead and select this one checkbox here that says exclude servers, don't upgrade servers. I personally would, but some people are a little more cautious of the servers. But what you have now at the very bottom of this dialog is the exclude clients from upgrade, and that's from your automatic client upgrade. So what you do here is go ahead and select the checkbox and then pick a collection of clients that you don't want to be automatically upgraded. So now what's going to happen, I get this, because of this top scenario, you're going to say in the next 7 days you want everybody, all your clients that are Windows Configuration Manager clients in the All Systems collection, to upgrade to the build 8385, except for those clients sitting in this collection here. Ignore this middle section here because that's on pre-production client stuff, which is part of the updates and servicing feature. I know I've done webinars on updates and servicing feature before, so it's available on Vimeo if you've not seen that information, but it's there. So the top one says I want all my clients to be upgraded to the production build, which is 8385. The bottom checkbox says everybody except for the guys in this one collection. So that gives you a little more control over which clients you want to get upgraded and when. Okay, a couple more things real quick for you. If we go to Software Library, here you see that Windows 10 servicing dashboard, which if you hadn't seen it before, that was not in the LTSB release. So you see that. Here's the Office 365 dashboard, which neither of these do I don't have any Windows 10 clients in this environment, nor do I have any O365 clients. But you see the dashboard here, which allows you to go ahead and view your Office 365 clients, create an installer. If I go ahead and zoom in here, you can create an installer to install some Office apps. You can create an automatic deployment rule for updates, and you can deploy Office 365 client settings through this dashboard. But where I was going to go here was go to Software Updates. I don't have any ADRs right now, so if I go create an automatic deployment rule, I'll just call it Demo. I'll say I want to update all of my servers. I'll say all pre-production clients, and then go here, and now these are all the things you can filter on to figure out which updates you want to automatically select. And now you have this new one, content size. So let me go ahead and select that content size. And now if I say content is less than or equal to 100K, which is what the size is, as you can see when I add it in, it says KB. And now I click preview, it finds for me 71 updates. So it found 71 updates in my environment that had content that was less than or equal to 100K. Now, if I think that might be a little too much, I can go ahead and let's go ahead and change that in my filtering. I'll now say less than or equal to 50K, and I'll add that. And let me remove the 100 and click OK. And now, when I do a preview, it should have some different number. So it now is down to 16 updates. So it dropped whatever that is, 55 updates because of the size of 50 to 100K in size. So it just gives you a little more control over the type of updates that are going to be downloaded and made available to you. All right, so yeah, I'll go ahead and kill that guy. And there's some other things that are cool in tech previews that may make production level updates. Here you see under security in the monitoring workspace, you have a software updates dashboard, which will let you see what your software update status is. So that's kind of cool. It was there in 1604, 1605, but wasn't ready for 1606. Here's your upgrade analytics dashboard, which I don't have that turned on yet, integrated with Configuration Manager. And under cloud services, you see that you have Cloud Management Gateway. It's kind of a replacement for internet-based client management, the way it's done today. And then you have the Upgrade Analytics Connector to connect up to Microsoft with your Azure subscription, as well as the OMS connector. So there's a lot of cool things that may be coming in the next production update that you would be able to see here in a technical preview environment. So that's one of the cool reasons that tech preview environments are very, very beneficial to you. You get a look at a glimpse at the future. You also get to help direct Microsoft's direction or influence it, because you can say, yeah, this feature is not ready yet, like the software updates dashboard wasn't ready, so they didn't get it in there, or the cloud proxy DP, or the cloud proxy scenario, which now are calling cloud management gateway. They weren't ready when they got added, so they're in the tech previews yet. But you can go ahead and test these things out in your environment, give Microsoft feedback back to help designate whether these make it to the next production build or not. All right, so let's go back into our slides, and we'll finish this guy up for you, because we're at the bottom of the hour here, which is the top of the hour for you guys, and we'll go look at the questions we got in just a moment. So just a quick summary here. System Center 2016 is generally available now, and it does include a new baseline build of Configuration Manager Current Branch, which is 1606. It is not going to be the 1610 when it comes out. It's going to be 1606. You'll have to use the updates and servicing feature to get to any later builds. It also has the option for you to install the long-term servicing branch edition of Configuration Manager, which I said in my slide here to ignore. You really do want to ignore it unless you decide to no longer maintain your software assurance, and then you would be able to use the LTSB release. And then we talked a little bit about Tech Preview 1609 and 1610 as things that may happen in the next production release or a future production release, including the boundary groups, which are expected to be in the next release, so you guys do want to be aware of that. If you're not aware of the Thoresen community, this is a great forum for you guys to go and ask questions, discuss issues, provide answers to other people, ask troubleshooting questions, suggest feature updates or new product updates, whether you're getting answers from Brett, who's very commonly out there and answering a ton of things, or other people at Thoresen, maybe some of your other members of the IT community that are out there answering, partners may be out there. But it's not only just about the Thoresen solutions, but it's also just about System Center itself. There's an area there just for Configuration Manager that I'm out there monitoring, as well as the Configuration Manager apps that we have out there. And the link's at the very bottom of the screen. If you're not aware of the Thoresen community, that's how you can go and sign up and join the Thoresen community and look at that information and provide feedback. Brett, I'm guessing you wanted to say something there since all of a sudden I heard noise?
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, absolutely. I just want to reiterate that community, we have quite a large number of people that are a part of that community. We hit 1,000 users just the other week. So please do go there, have a look around at what's available there, and also have a look at the download section for what other people have been providing as far as solutions are concerned. And we'll have more announcements and so forth as well via the community as new products hit the shelves.
Yeah, very good. So what's next? Look for some new Configuration Manager apps from Thoresen soon. I know Brett in the Q&A section before we started, somebody was asking about the recording of the session that he and I did a month ago, or a number of weeks ago anyway, about the 4 free Configuration Manager apps that we have, and that recording's up there. We also did announce at IT Dev Connections event a week or so ago, we announced that we're going to be providing in the future, not as a free app, but a Configuration Manager web console. And I've got a couple of webinars scheduled the middle of this November right now, if they don't move them again on me, where we'll go ahead and do a discussion and demonstration of that. So that's something to look forward to as well. If you need any help at all with anything System Center related, for my aspect, it's Configuration Manager, but I know there's a whole lot of rest of System Center and Thoresen out there besides me and Configuration Manager. You can always contact us at the email address there, or Brett's email address was on the very front slide of the presentation here as well. So, all right.
And absolutely, we like to hear from everyone inside the community as well. So please do, if you do have a question, please feel free to reach out to me, and I'll pass along any information or any questions that I can't answer directly.
All right, good. So now we're at the question and answer section. So if you guys have any questions you've not already asked, go ahead and type them up and put them in the questions section, and we can go ahead and review those. There's a couple.
So yeah, we've got a question there. Just curious, is SA expiry timed bombed? So i.e. the features are hobbled if it expires?
So no, it's if you put in your SA expiration date and you hit that, it does not restrict anything, or it doesn't convert you over to LTSB. It's just a legal issue. So just legally telling you that, nope, you're not. But it does not time bomb anything, or it doesn't remove any of those features. It's just a visual warning.
Okay, cool. So the short answer to that's no.
Correct.
Another question here, do the same limitations to the new release apply if I'm running on all-in-one primary site location in Azure, i.e. you can't use OSD feature and a few others?
OSD is the primary thing that I know of that's not supported today in Azure. They are working on that. So they are working. If you do host your configuration manager environment in Azure, technically the product group doesn't support OSD over Azure, but they are working on testing that scenario and getting it supported. So that's the main limitation. But the cool thing is, as of current branch, it has in essence complete support for Azure hosted scenarios, with the exception of OSD. It's still in a yeah, we're working on that scenario, getting it tested. And they have done some, and they've had some pretty decent results so far in Azure. Obviously, it's just a big payload. And obviously, you have to have IP helpers and your router and stuff like that to go and get things there. But it's just a matter of getting that fully tested and then supported, which probably just can be a test scenario. But that's the only thing I'm aware of that's not supported in an Azure environment right now, and that's just OSD. But all your other cloud-based features are supposed to work, including Intune and so on. So yeah, no other limitations that I'm aware of.
All right, cool. Any other questions, people? That we've run out of questions there. So if you've got a question, now's the time to ask it before we call it a day. It looks like we've run out of questions there, Wally. So thank you very much, sir, for joining us here in our time zone to be able to run through all the very cool things that are now in Configuration Manager current branch and how that all comes together.
You are very welcome. It was a pleasure to be here and chat with you guys. I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording, and we'll get this recording. I'll upload it to our internal